Good evening, everybody. I hope everyone can hear me. It's really lovely to be here. My thanks to Professor Staples for kindly inviting me, and to you, the audience, for your attendance. Now, I am a social anthropologist based at, as James mentioned, University College London. I've conducted ethnographic fieldwork in the UK and Bangladesh, and my interests broadly explore the intersections of migration and diaspora studies, the anthropology of Islam, and the political economy of South Asia. Now, straight off the bat, I must confess that I, by no means, am an expert on Leicester, so my comments tonight will be based around the salient issues that arose in the city, rather than a direct commentary on them. I have, however, managed to contact friends in the city who kindly share some thoughts on the riots, or disorder, as Peggy mentioned, from a subjective Muslim perspective, some of which I intend to share with you a little later. I have nonetheless conducted extensive fieldwork-based research in the Bedfordshire town of Luton among second and third generation British-born Muslim male youth, exploring their everyday lives, working, playing, praying under the spectre of the war on terror, and importantly, what it meant for them to be British. Now, this research was conducted between 2008 and 10 and sporadically since. Some of you may be familiar with Luton, either through direct experience or reputation. In the aftermath of 9/11 and the London 7/7 bombings, Luton has often been described in the media and academic literature as the hotbed of Islamic radicalisation due to its sizable Muslim community and links to a number of extremist organisations and individuals. Muslim youth in this period, mainly men, took over inner city black youth in the 1970s, 80s and 90s, again mainly men, as a seemingly undisputed national folk devil in the popular imagination. Men who, due to their pathological criminality and antisocial behaviour, should be feared, surveilled and reprimanded. Contrary to the vast majority of news discourse at the time, my study found that Muslim men in Luton felt and acted very British. They loved their home, their hometown, as a place that they could openly express their identity and defined Britishness in complex, agentive and innovative ways. I found that they were not only committed to Britain as a place where their long-term aspirations and hopes were to be played out, but that they also identified very strongly with the plight of the Ummah, meaning the global community of Muslims. They drew on the Quranic verse, "Indeed, all Muslims are brothers," and the prophetic hadith, "The examples of Muslims in their mutual love, mercy and sympathy is like that of a body. If one of the organs is afflicted, the whole body responds with sleeplessness and fever." This informed their politics, not least in the realm of foreign policy. My friends in Luton were very concerned by the plight of fellow Muslims suffering oppression in Iraq, Palestine, Kashmir and other places around the world. This concern would regularly feature in conversations, particularly when discussing government and politics and their place in modern Britain. In fact, and perhaps paradoxically, all of my respondents claimed to be most comfortable with the identity of British Muslim, but when pushed, confessed that their Muslim identity was most important, then quickly asserted that one could be a Muslim anywhere and that there is no necessary conflict between national and religious identities. Since the advent of the BJP government in 2014, there has been a rise in communal tensions between extreme Hindu nationalists and impoverished Muslim communities in India. There have been public beatings, lynchings, rape, organised pogroms, and the amendment of legislation targeting Muslim communities. These developments were not lost on Muslims in Britain. In Tower Hamlets, where I now conduct research, the Muslim community has been active in organising protests and creating awareness of these atrocities. The concern felt among Tower Hamlets Muslims is the same as those felt in Luton, that Muslims should not stand aside and watch their brothers and sisters suffer. On social media, videos and images are shared constantly among Muslim youth, exposing the myriad injustices that Muslims in India and other parts of the world face and negotiate on an everyday basis, sometimes on live stream. This has led to a profound sense of awareness, anger and solidarity among the Muslim diasporas in the UK. The British Muslim youth response to the events in Leicester bust-in protesters, anti-Hindu for demonstrations in Birmingham, and social media frenzy, therefore, needs to be contextualized through these lenses. On a broader level, the concept of ummah does not exclusively resonate with Muslims, but can be extrapolated to encompass and understand other global communities. In fact, a number of diaspora communities share a common sense of divine solidarity with co-religionists in an abstract, deterritorialized sense, or through the conception of a common mythic, imaginary, or territorial homeland. Through this conception of identity, transnational links are forged, where ideas, goods, and people move in multilateral ways and create novel, globalized social formations. This, however, can be a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it has the potential to unite people across borders and landmass, creating a space for conviviality, solidarity, and action. On the other, pernicious, divisive ideologies can also take the same route to spread fear, resentment, and misinformation, intent on creating the aforementioned folk devil. This has been the case with Islamist extremist ideologies appropriating the idea of ummah and conflating it with foreign policy to embed hatred towards the West among UK Muslim communities in the 1990s and 2000s. And with the rise of communal tensions in Leicester, the same appears to be happening among the UK Hindu community, where an anti-Muslim narrative based on stereotypes and revisionist histories are deployed by ideologues to generate mistrust, suspicion, and bigotry. Unlike the Muslim extremists, however, the insidious rise of Hindu extremist discourse and activity seems to be largely ignored by the British establishment. Some have even suggested that it has been tacitly encouraged by political parties. Whatever the reasons may be, history shows that unfettered, unchecked hatred only ends in tragedy. Now, I'm going to end with a quote from a Muslim community activist in Leicester, sent to me by a friend. You'd be absolutely right to think that Leicester has been the byword for diversity, cohesion. Yes, we've had our problems, but we are always seen as a beacon for other cities around the world. Traditionally, this area of Leicester is where many migrants first moved to in the city. It was the place where I landed when I arrived here from Africa, along with my Hindu brothers and sisters and Sikh brothers and sisters in the 70s. That was the area I grew up in. It's cohesive. We went to school together. We grew up together. We played football together. We worked together. Yes, we had our issues. Every society does, but nothing to this extent and never on the lines of religion. India and Pakistan have been playing cricket for decades. One wins, the other loses. There's always a bit of cheering, a little bit of banter. It has never, to my knowledge, erupted into violence in our city. In fact, the majority of the people in Leicester who have Muslim heritage are from India. So a lot of them who follow cricket support India. So I'm just going to leave it there. Thank you very much for listening.